I'm Jackie Mason, and what we're going to talk about today is a few things that you can practice at home to change dramatically how you're walking, running, how you're doing many activities in life. These are just small changes that you can make that have a really huge impact. Today we're going to show you something about how you can work with gravity instead of against gravity in your movements for walking and or running. And the practice is, and Anne here is going to work with me, is to go ahead and just lift your left toes up. And for most of you, you might be lifting the left toes up and then the weight goes into your heel and you're kind of locking your knee. So you can see here with this movement that I'm doing, that I'm locking that knee a little bit. Anne's going to show you too how, notice what happens to my pelvis when I start locking that knee. The pelvis tends to tilt down in front and go back behind me. And so now this time you're going to lift the toes by letting the knee bend. And notice when I let the knee bend that my pelvis actually starts coming forward. So you can see here, or the pelvis actually is brought forward simply by me keeping the knee bent as I lift my toes. Why is this important? Because it turns out that most of us are lifting our legs by actually using our back muscles. And we lift the leg tends to be a little bit, we don't actually lift it much. We tend to lift the leg just a little bit, but the knee stays behind us. And the reason that we're doing that is because our pelvis is behind us, so the knee comes behind us. So you'll watch me lift my leg here with that pelvis behind me, and Anne's kind of doing the same thing. And so now what we're teaching you here, again, let the toes inform the knee to bring the toes up. And now this time you go ahead and lift the leg. And now when I lift the leg to go this way, you'll see that my pelvis tends to come forward a little bit. So that means I'm much more ready for forward movement. And this can only be a good thing for walking and or running. So again, we let the toes come up. Notice how my knee now is way out in front of my body. And you'll notice with a lot of runners that really good runners that their knees tend to come up pretty high and in front of their body. You'll also notice that as you do this movement, that if you don't lock your opposite knee, it's quite easy for you to balance. You'll also notice that you can start to release now your buttocks and the back of your leg and the back of your calf. And you'll find that the only muscle you're really needing to use to lift this leg is your quad muscle. And now, as you continue to do this movement, I want you to let the pelvis just tilt slightly down. Notice my pelvis now is just tilting slightly down. Check Anne's pelvis. And as she tilts that pelvis down, notice that our knees are needing to release and bend a little bit more. So now this time, as we bring our leg up pretending there's a string attached to the toes, we're going to let our pelvis tilt down a little bit. And now we're going to feel what that feels like, and that gives us even more stability. And when you tilt the pelvis down, this is where everybody else usually starts to make a mistake. The pelvis tilts down and the upper body comes forward. We don't want that to end, and just let it come forward just a little bit. And this is what most everybody does. Now, if the upper body comes forward, well, now you're back behind yourself. Notice my pelvis now wants to be behind myself to lift that leg. So what we want to do now is let the upper body come nice and tall. So we're going to tilt the pelvis down and forward. We're going to start to bring the leg up, and as we bring the leg up, we're going to notice that our chest wants to come up. So again, bring that leg up, and now you can feel how your body actually is not going to lift up. So notice how as you lift that leg up, your body tends to go down a little bit. And the reason is because now you're letting your ankle of your opposite leg hold you up a little bit more. So now you're just going to let your body drop down a little bit, let your chest come up, your body drops down to bring that leg up. And the last thing that's going to happen is you'll notice that as your chest wants to come up, many of us want to do this with our chin. That's not going to work. Yet again, that takes you out of your centered balance. When I talk about centered balance, I'm talking about the torso being balanced right over the center of the hips, and the hips being balanced right over the center of the feet. And for us to have movement, we actually don't want to be standing in the center of the feet. We want to be standing more toward the ball of the foot, because the ball of the foot is what we push off of. And so again, now we don't want the chin to come up. We actually want the chin to basically feel like it's coming down and lengthening the back of the neck as we let our chest come up. So now let's put this movement entirely together. You've got the string pulling your leg up from the bottom as your upper body is tending to go down to meet the leg. So now you're learning a little bit about how to be in gravity instead of trying to push off of gravity. And that's a lot more work, because if you're actually running, many people you'll see run and it's very much of an up-down movement. Well, that's lifting your whole torso up in gravity, rather than if we're doing this movement, now we're running and we're not having to lift up our torso anymore. So you'll see that you can do this and run and have almost no movement happen in your upper body. And that's what we want our run to look like. We want our run to be, it's hard to show you when I'm just running in place, but we want our run to be much more the legs coming up as the upper body goes down.